The notion of a separate financial arrangement struck the husband as quite sensible and contemporary. He had no inkling of the domestic upheaval it would soon ignite. When his mother arrived for a visit and flung open the refrigerator door, her indignation knew no bounds. "Son," she exclaimed, "why is the fridge empty? Where's the food?" She paced the kitchen in utter bewilderment, while her beloved son turned to his wife with a perplexed expression. "Darling," he asked, "why haven't you prepared anything for Mom's arrival?" Greetings, esteemed listeners. It's a pleasure to welcome you to my channel. I'm delighted to present a new and captivating story. Enjoy the broadcast. Larisa Mikhailovna detested lengthy train journeys, yet visiting her son necessitated precisely that mode of transport. She owned no car, and a taxi to their suburban abode would prove prohibitively expensive. She was already anticipating crossing the threshold, shedding those dreadful boots that had chafed her heels, and settling at the table where Katya, her daughter-in-law, had undoubtedly already laid out plates brimming with homemade pies, salads, and a hot meal. Katya consistently welcomed her mother-in-law with grand hospitality, cooking as if expecting not one person, but an entire delegation. Pavel opened the door. Her only son, he embraced her and kissed her cheek. Larisa Mikhailovna entered the hall, removed her coat, and surveyed the surroundings. The apartment was tidy, smelling of freshness but not of food. Peculiar, she mused. Usually the aroma of fried onions, baked goods, or stewed meat wafted from the moment one entered. "Where's Katya?" she inquired, heading toward the kitchen. "Katya's in the other room. She'll be out shortly," Pavel replied somewhat hesitantly. Larisa Mikhailovna pushed open the kitchen door and froze. An empty fruit bowl graced the table. The stove gleamed, untouched. She approached the refrigerator, pulled open its door, and gasped. Inside, she found only a bottle of ketchup, a pat of butter, and a solitary cucumber, clearly nearing its final days. "Son," she demanded, her voice resonating with indignation, "why is the fridge empty? Where's the food?" Pavel stood in the doorway, scratching the back of his head and averting his gaze. "Well, Mom, you see, Katya and I have decided to switch to separate budgets." Larisa Mikhailovna's eyes widened in disbelief. "Separate budgets? What on earth are you talking about?" "It's just modern, you know. I spend my money on myself, and she spends hers on herself. No one owes anyone anything. It's all very fair." The mother-in-law felt a familiar warmth rise within her. She darted around the kitchen, opening cupboards and peering into pots. Everywhere was bare. No grains, no pasta, no bread. It was as if no one lived in this apartment. "Are you serious?" She turned to her son, her voice sharp. "You've been married for 8 years. You have a child. What separate budget are you talking about?" "Mom, this is my decision," Katya agreed. Pavel was beginning to sound irritated. At that moment, Katya emerged from the bedroom. She was clad in comfortable trousers and a faded t-shirt, her hair tied back in a casual ponytail. Her face was devoid of expression, projecting an aura of calm, bordering on indifference. "Hello, Larisa Mikhailovna," she said in an even tone. "Katenka," her mother-in-law rushed towards her. "What's happened? Why is there no food in the house? I arrived hungry, expecting your usual feast." "Darling," Pavel interjected, looking at his wife with a hint of reproach, "why haven't you prepared anything for Mom's arrival?" And then Katya looked at him in a way that even Larisa Mikhailovna involuntarily recoiled. "Because my budget is allocated for myself and for Lyova," she replied softly but with absolute clarity. "I purchase groceries for 2. My son and I eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. You yourself stated that from now on everyone is responsible for themselves. So I am responsible for myself and for our child, who, incidentally, is also mine." Pavel's mouth opened, but no words came out. "What do you mean, for 2? He stammered. "Exactly. You wanted a separate budget, didn't you? Well, you got it. I spend my salary on groceries for myself and Leova, on his clothes, his activities, his doctor's visits, on everything else, too. Your salary is yours. Mine is mine. It's fair, isn't it? Larisa Mikhailovna slowly sank into a chair. She suddenly grasped that something significant had transpired here, though the full extent of the disaster had yet to dawn on her. "Wait a minute," Pavel said, nervously running a hand over his face. "I didn't mean I wouldn't eat at home at all." "But you said you would," Katya countered. "You said separate budget. I took that literally. If you wish to consume my food, let's discuss how much you're willing to contribute to the communal pot. I've calculated that for 3 people, it's approximately 35,000 per month, give or take. If you want to eat with us, you'll need to contribute. Half of that, around 17,000. Pavel turned pale. "Are you out of your mind? This is my apartment. The mortgage still has 10 years left, and I'm paying exactly half of it." Katya crossed her arms over her chest. "So don't make such a fuss. The apartment is jointly owned, and we pay equally. But the food, I buy myself because you decided we now have a separate budget." "Katyusha, dear," Larisa Mikhailovna intervened, attempting to smooth ruffled feathers. "Really, what is this? Men have always been providers, but that doesn't mean—" "Larisa Mikhailovna," Katya interrupted, her voice hardening with steel. "Your son decided to play at emancipation. I'm simply playing along. He earns 80,000, I earn 50. Previously, we pooled everything into a joint budget, and I managed the household, bought groceries, cooked, did laundry, cleaned, and looked after Leova, while he sat playing his video games in the evenings. Then he announced he wanted a separate budget. I agreed. Now I only spend my money on myself and our son. And you know what? I'm even managing to save." Pavel stood there, his face as red as a lobster. "That's not what I meant." "And what did you mean?" Katya inquired, her tone icy. "That I would continue to handle all the household chores while you saved up for a new computer." A heavy, oppressive silence descended. Larisa Mikhailovna looked from her son to her daughter-in-law, and a picture began to form in her mind. She suddenly saw everything from a different perspective. Katya had always been a good wife, a capable homemaker, and a caring partner. As for Pavel, it seemed, had decided he could pull the wool over everyone's eyes and come out smelling like roses. "But Mom's here," Pavel attempted to play the sympathy card. "Then feed Mom." Katya shrugged. "I didn't invite you. I didn't even know Larisa Mikhailovna was coming. You didn't tell me." "How can you say you didn't invite her? She's my mother." "Your mother, your responsibility, your money. Separate budget, remember?" Larisa Mikhailovna felt the ground shifting beneath her feet. She had always considered Katya to be docile and accommodating. Yet here was this young woman showing unexpected backbone. And the most galling part was, she was entirely in the right. "Fine, I'll go to the store now," Pavel grumbled, reaching for his jacket. "The nearest one closes at 10, Katya called after him. "You'll make it if you hurry." Pavel slammed the door. Larisa Mikhailovna remained seated in the kitchen, feeling unwanted and out of place. Katya poured herself some tea and retrieved a packet of cookies from a cupboard, hidden behind the grains in the farthest corner. "Would you like one?" she offered her mother-in-law. "Thank you," the elder woman murmured, taking a cookie. They drank their tea in silence. Somewhere in the next room, the sound of a child's laughter could be heard. Leova was watching cartoons, a normal child, cheerful. Larisa Mikhailovna suddenly realized she didn't even know what her grandson was interested in, what he liked, or what his dreams were. She had always visited to see her son, perceiving Leova as merely an accessory to her visits. "I'm sorry," she said, surprising herself. Katya looked up. "For what?" "I always assumed that you were obligated to do everything by default, simply because you're the wife." Katya gave a slight smile, but without malice. Everyone thinks that. Even Pavel. He genuinely believed he could declare a separate budget, and I would continue to feed him, wash his socks, and iron his shirts because that's how it's supposed to be. And you decided to teach him a lesson? I decided to live honestly, Katya corrected. If it's a separate budget, then it's truly separate. I won't pretend everything is fine while they walk all over me. Larisa Mikhailovna nodded. She felt a newfound respect for this young woman, a feeling she had never experienced before. Katya hadn't thrown tantrums, hadn't cried, and hadn't threatened divorce. She had simply acted according to the rules her husband had established. Pavel returned an hour later, carrying bags filled with dumplings, sausages, and bread. His expression was sour. Larisa Mikhailovna understood that her son had spent a considerable sum, and he didn't seem pleased about it. He silently cooked the dumplings, and the three of them ate. Katya emerged from the room only to retrieve Lyova and feed him separately with food she had prepared in advance. Larisa Mikhailovna observed this, feeling a sense of guilt, though she couldn't quite pinpoint the reason. That night, she lay on the sofa in the living room and heard them arguing in the bedroom. Pavel hissed something, and Katya responded calmly, almost emotionlessly. Larisa Mikhailovna realized that intervening would be futile. This was their battle, their rules, their life. The next morning, she departed, having witnessed no reconciliation. Pavel escorted her to the train station, looking sullen and silent. Katya did not emerge from her room at all. In the following weeks, Larisa Mikhailovna called her son regularly. At first, he responded curtly and irritably, then he began to complain. It turned out that Katya had held firm to her word. She bought groceries only for herself and Lyova. She cooked only for the two of them. Pavel tried to pilfer food from the refrigerator, but Katya had established a separate shelf and secured it with a lock, a genuine combination lock on the refrigerator shelf. "Mom, she's completely lost it," Pavel whined into the phone. "Yesterday I ate a cutlet she had prepared for Lyova's dinner. She then sent me a bill. She said the cutlet cost 120 rubles, factoring in the ingredients and her labor." Larisa Mikhailovna remained silent. She didn't know what to say. On one hand, she felt sorry for her son. On the other, he had brought this upon himself. "Pashka, perhaps it's time to stop?" she ventured cautiously. "Just tell her you were wrong, that you want to go back to how things were." "I've tried telling her," Pavel wailed. "She replies that a separate budget is a wonderful idea, and she's very happy with this arrangement. And you know what's most frustrating? She genuinely is happy. She seems happier somehow. She walks around smiling, plays with Lyova, and she won't even offer me a cup of tea. Can't you make your own tea?" Larisa Mikhailovna asked sharply. "Can I? But didn't she used to pay you for it?" Pavel fell silent. A month later, Katya herself called her mother-in-law. Her voice was calm, even warm. "Larisa Mikhailovna, I wanted to apologize for that reception. I felt awkward that you were left hungry." "Katyusha, you have nothing to apologize for," the elder woman replied truthfully. "It was my son who acted foolishly. I wanted to tell you that Pavel and I have discussed everything. He's agreed to return to a joint budget. But now we have an expense spreadsheet, and we both know where the money goes. Pavel saw how much I spend on household needs, on the child, on the home. He was shocked." "And what did he say?" Katya chuckled. "He said he hadn't realized running a household was so expensive. And I told him it's not expensive. It's normal. He just never had to calculate it before because I handled it." Larisa Mikhailovna felt a surge of pride for her daughter-in-law and shame for having once believed her obligated to do everything simply because she was the wife. "Come visit us next weekend," Katya invited. "I'll bake an apple pie just the way you like it." "Thank you, dear, I'll come." And Larisa Mikhailovna did. The table was laden with food, and Katya radiated happiness. Lyova scampered around, giggling. Pavel was quiet and subdued, but no longer angry. He helped his wife set the table, brought plates, and wiped up the juice his son had spilled. At the table, Larisa Mikhailovna raised her glass. To understanding the value of care and expressing gratitude to those who make our lives comfortable, Katya smiled, and Pavel nodded. Lyova cheered for his mom, and everyone laughed. After dinner, while Katya was putting Lyova to bed, Pavel remained with his mother in the kitchen, diligently washing the dishes. "You know, Mom, I was a complete idiot," he said, not looking up from the plate. "You were," Larisa Mikhailovna agreed. "I genuinely thought a separate budget was cool and modern, that we would both be free. It turned out I just wanted to save money for myself and keep it for myself." "It turned out?" She nodded. "Katya saved 15,000 in that first month of the separate budget," Pavel continued. 15,000, because before, she used to spend it on little things for the house, on more expensive groceries, on treats. But now, she simply stopped doing that, and a lot of money became available. "And you were left without dinner," Larisa Mikhailovna chuckled. "I was left without anything," Pavel admitted. "I didn't even realize she did so much. Apparently, shirts don't iron themselves, food doesn't cook itself, and the apartment doesn't clean itself. Katya did all of that every single day, and I just assumed it was supposed to happen." "Many people think that," Larisa Mikhailovna said. "And I thought that too, until your father left and I was alone. That's when I understood how much he did, even though I believed I was the one carrying the entire household." Pavel wiped his hands and sat opposite his mother. "You know what the scariest part is? A friend at work advised me on this separate budget. He lives that way with his wife, and I thought it was fair, everyone for themselves. But I didn't consider that Katya might take it literally. I thought she would continue to do everything as usual, and I would simply have more freedom to spend my money." "So you wanted all the benefits without any of the drawbacks?" Larisa Mikhailovna summarized. "Yes," Pavel sighed. "I was selfish. Katya showed me that very clearly." Katya appeared in the doorway wearing pajamas, her hair down. "Lyova's asleep," she announced. "Larisa Mikhailovna, I've made up the guest room in the living room for you. Please let me know if you need anything." "Thank you, dear." Larisa Mikhailovna stood and hugged her daughter-in-law. "Thank you for not letting my son become completely brazen." Katya laughed. "I stood up for myself. It just so happened that it benefited everyone." That night, Larisa Mikhailovna lay in the darkness, contemplating how for so many years she herself had lived under an illusion. She believed that a wife owed her husband everything by default: cooking, washing, bearing children, raising them, working, and all the while being grateful for even being chosen for marriage. But that wasn't true. A family is an equal, fair partnership. If one person contributes more, that should be valued, not taken for granted. 2 years later, Larisa Mikhailovna visited her son again, but this time she was greeted by a different home. Pavel himself was preparing dinner while Katya was at work. He had learned to cook and was proud of it. Lyova had grown and started first grade. Katya had launched a small online business selling children's clothing and was now earning more than her husband. But that was no longer an issue. They contributed equally, managed a joint budget, and planned their expenses together. "Mom, have a seat. I made a roast," Pavel said, smiling as he took a baking tray from the oven. Larisa Mikhailovna looked at her son and felt a sense of joy. The argument about the separate budget had turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to their family. It had forced Pavel to mature, Katya to assert her boundaries, and all of them to learn to respect each other. At the table, they discussed plans, the future, and a new car they wanted to buy on credit. Katya showed her mother-in-law photos of the new clothing collection. Lyova talked about school. "Do you remember the day you arrived and the refrigerator was empty?" Pavel suddenly asked. "How could I forget?" Larisa Mikhailovna chuckled. "That was the most terrifying day of my life," he confessed. "I realized I could lose my family because of my own stupidity." "You didn't lose it," Katya said gently. "You simply found it, finally." Larisa Mikhailovna looked at them, a lump forming in her throat. She was happy. Happy for them, for her grandson, and that everything had turned out this way. Sometimes you have to fall to learn to walk. Sometimes you have to go hungry to understand who has been feeding you your whole life. In the evening, on the train ride home, Larisa Mikhailovna gazed out the window at the passing lights and smiled. Life is a strange thing. Sometimes the most unpleasant situations lead to the most appropriate decisions, and an empty refrigerator can be the beginning of a truly honest family.